Which cartoon character had the best character development and why? Philip J. Fry from Futurama. I know it's a comedy show, but the most heartbreaking moments involve Fry and just how much he means to everyone, or how much he does to help. I'm only just realizing his growth as a character as I grow older too. A down in the dumps, not so smart pizza delivery boy who is catapulted into a new life, and what does he do? Forgives his brother and appreciates his nephew, is best friends and roommates with a robot who has almost as many problems as he does, was the first kind person to Leela, and was ready to die for her on multiple occasions. Saved the professor from humiliation, saves universe more than once, and comforts his mother just by dream hugging her, secretly knowing that's what they both needed. Fry deserves more love and appreciation. Edit. Thank you everyone for the awards and replies. I wrote this at 1 AM and had a good dopamine boost from all the upvotes and replies. My first silver award was from a comment on r/Futurama. Do all these awards feel like they come from the right place and right time? Maybe I'll go buy some Poplar spam. That episode with his mom is ducking devastating. The pause before he hugs her is heartbreaking. I love that show. Edit. There you go, you sick people. Kazko from Emperor's New Groove. Spoiled brat with everything, to spoiled brat with nothing, to less spoiled brat learning about teamwork, to fairly normal person, to getting everything back but not being spoiled anymore, but rather respectable. That scene where he saved Patch's life and was celebrating was a true turning point. He realized he could get a great feeling by doing good rather than just fulfilling his own desires. Also a good lesson for the target audience. Edit. Spelling. Nobody's that heartless. / wipes the dust from my eyes /. While Zuko is the best one, Azula's decay into insanity was good. Sure, she starts evil, but all her frustrations add up. Her dichotomy from Zuko is so stunning. Zuko starts very hot-headed and fueled by angst, has always offensive, and never stops to think long about his actions. From the start Azula is very calm, cool, and calculated. But by the end of the series during their final Nikkei battle, the roles are reversed. Zuko has found true inner peace as it's reflected in his mostly defensive movements during the battle. He rarely moves from the same position. Meanwhile Azula is unhinged, finally derailed by all her flaws, and is flying around throwing fire at a whim. Duck. What a good show. Edited to fix. Has mostly defensive in the final battle, not offensive. I feel like Hank Hill really grew throughout the series. It's really a show about the father-son relationship, and you get to see how his relationship with Cotton affected him. He doesn't fully understand Bobby, but I think his motivation in trying to comes from not wanting to be like Cotton. Why do you hate what you don't understand? I don't hate you, Bobby. I was talking about soccer. Carl from Up. I'm still mind blown that Pixar was able to create such a compelling story that addressed grief and loss, the realization childhood dreams, being a father figure, and the search for meaning in life all into one animated movie. Edit. Wow. First gold. Thank you, kind stranger. If we're saying Pixar count as cartoons, then I'd like to say Joy from Inside Out. She believed success was about always being happy, and that sadness was an annoyance that shouldn't be there. Whilst she was kinda right, she learned how being sad can make happy times so much more poignant and create a fuller, deeper personality with more meaningful moments. Of course there's an argument that Bing Bong had a stronger arc where he turned from constant fun to self-sacrifice, but I don't think him emotionally strong enough to think about that right now. Raven from Teen Titans. She grew up thinking that destiny was an unchangeable reality, succumbing to the threats of her father and living a life full of anxiety and isolation because of her fears. Before dying, she had the hope that she was wrong about everything and gave each of her friends a portion of her soul to survive the broad fourth apocalypse, granting them the chance they needed to survive and fight a bit longer. After all was said and done, and after it had cost her her very own life, she finally understood that her destiny was what she chose for it to be and not what others told her it was. Though she failed the first time, she was given a second chance to change it all and took it. Having grown from that experience, she came back stronger, more balanced, and more trusting in those who loved her, chose who truly was her family, and ended up saving her world from her father. Truly a great metaphor for life's choices. free will, and the dooming feeling of a predestined life. A great arc for a great character. Edit. For those asking, Raven sacrifices herself in the first episode of the 3-part finale to season 4 called The End. Last year on my birthday, my friends got me a cake and some balloons, but I couldn't enjoy it because my dad Trigon, this scary red demon with horns, took over the world, and there was fire everywhere, and then this ugly guy Slade, who had a skeleton for a face, came after me, and, cut to children looking horrified, my friends saved me, and we all had cake. The end. Zuko and Katara from Atla. Though Zuko has very well known character arc, Katara grows so much throughout the show. She meets the guy who killed her mother, she learned bloodbending, and so many more experiences. She grows from a mere child to a strong young woman. It is very interesting to watch. So many characters grow in the same show throughout the story. The scene where Katara confronts her mother's killer with the full intention to end his life in an act of revenge, only to see the target of her hatred embodied as a frail old man, is really moving. A huge part of her psyche has been revolving around the death of her mother. Her feelings of hatred are burning red hot under the surface all this time. She practically leaps for the opportunity to satisfy her revenge. But when it comes time to do the deed, she finds not a glorious fight awaiting her. To kill the man before her would make her into the same monster she has been hating this entire time. She knows she must spare his life to retain her humanity, but by taking the high road she denies herself the closure she's been searching for. Watching her struggle through that and come out on top is one of my favorite Atla moments. Ice King from Adventure Time. Character development doesn't have to be for the best. Ice King is a perfect example of seeing a character slowly descend into madness. There are so many clues that hint about why he is how he is. What got me is his obsession with princesses. He called his fiancée Princess. He must have loved her so much that the pet name stayed with him even after the memory of her had clouded over. I'm not crying. You're crying. Close bracket. Both Woody and Buzz from Toy Story, especially the first one. Woody goes from being Andy's favorite to playing second fiddle early on and has a really big shock to his system. Then he goes on a redemption arc where he gets rid of his jealousy. Buzz goes from believing he's the real Buzz Lightyear to having reality crash down on him, and then overcomes his depression when he finds his new purpose, to bring kids joy. I hate how they portrayed Buzz in TS4. A complete moron and clueless. Come on Pixar, he wasn't that dense. Edit. For those who disagree, compare the bus that leads Toys in Woody's rescue in Toy Story 2 compared to TS4. Buzz made no effort until the very last scene to lead. Sokka from Atla. He is underrated and often overshadowed by Zuko, partly because his character is often used for comedic relief. However, his development from a sexist alpha male mentality kid to a true leader is great to look at and something a lot of viewers could actually relate to more than to Zuko. From the way he treated the Kyoshi warriors the first time he met them to the way he treated them, and Toph, Katara, etc. at the end of the series is night and day. Megamind. Poor guy had such an unfortunate start. Even then it became a blessing in disguise. Minion. Loved the way he became a hero in the end. Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls. That whole show had great characters, but Stan had the most interesting ups and downs. Stan Pines grows more and more complex as the series goes on without ever once changing from his core gruff lovability. What an excellent man. Eva from Wall-E. Damn, when she tried to wake up dead Wall-E broke my heart. Wall-E has to be one of my favorite movies. I swear I cry every time she tries to wake up Wall-E, and then when she holds his hand and sings, because she finally realizes that's the only thing he wanted from her all along. Excluding Zuko, as that's a given, Toph from ATLA has one of my favorite developments of all time, and it's extremely subtle. Her arc revolves around two things: accepting who she is even with her insecurities, and accepting the love she gets from the gang. She hides a lot of herself behind a tough persona early on, especially in the episode Butterwork, where she uses a very tough love approach to teach Aang earthbending. But in scenes such as her story in Tales of Basing Sea and her conversation with Iroh, we see her start to accept herself for who she is, and she opens up more and more throughout the series. It's overshadowed by bigger character developments like Zucus and Socus. Unfortunately, Edit, who gave me the Ignite award on a post about a character that gets her feet burned at one point. You heartless monster. Atla has amazing arcs for every character. Diane Nguyen from BoJack Horseman. I like how she came to terms with herself despite starting out with a false sense of self. Sometimes life's a bitch, and then you keep on living. I feel like that's the whole show right there. Pops from regular show. He seems like an old goofball, but, spoiler for show that ended years ago, he ends up giving his life to save the universe. I think Rigby character development was the best one on that show. Currently rewatching Lilo and Stitch, and I wanna toss in Stitch. Sure, he became more of a mascot to sell toys, but the movie does a great job showcasing his change from a being solely bent on destruction to an essential part of Lilo and Nana's family. Edit. Goddammit, just got to the part where he realizes that he is the cause of the destruction of Lilo and Nana's family and he leaves. Sunuva bitch, why am I more sentimental now than when I was a child? This exchange is heartbreaking. Jumba. Yes, that's it. Come quietly. Stitch. W. Wah. Waiting. Jumba. For what? Stitch. Family. Jumba. App. You don't have one. I made you. Stitch. Maybe I could. Jumba. You are built to destroy. You can never belong. All the characters from As Told by Ginger. They probably had the most realistic growth scene in a kid's cartoon. Plus they changed clothes daily and sometimes repeated parts of outfits, which was a nice touch. One of my favorite cartoons from childhood. I watched it again a few years ago, and it holds up really well. Edit. I'm a little seal girl, living in the real world. And it's so hard to get by. Cuss seals can't even cry. Vegeta. He went from a villain to reluctant hero / rival to Goku to husband and father. Then he had his redemption in the BUU saga. Vegeta met a woman who wouldn't take his bullshit. He didn't know how to handle that, so he married her. Rigby from regular show. He goes from lazy duck that doesn't care about anything to a great guy that truly does care about his friends. Rigby quietly starting to date Eileen without any drama, while Mordecai has spent seasons stressing about Margaret, and his crazy love life will never not be my favorite thing. So surprising and yet completely makes sense with their characters and really cements Rigby's growth. Philip J. Fry. He definitely became more mature. Bender also never killed all humans, so there's that. I really love Simba. Goes from a spoiled kid to wanting to be brave to impress his dad to experiencing unbelievable trauma and guilt to repressing it all as a carefree young adult to finally accepting his destiny as king. But even when he goes back to fight Scar, he isn't willing to really break free of his guilt until Scar reveals that he killed Mufasa. Underrated answer, I think. Haven't thought about it like this before. Ashoka Tano from Clone Wars. What a great series. And Captain Rex. Aside from the Gangin avatar, I'm going to say Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon. He went from this unconfident little kid who was struggling to find his place in society to a brilliant leader who forged his own path. Zuko in Avatar. Some of the original Magic School Bus kids were pretty well developed. The reason Colossus is a joker is because he doesn't get as much attention at home because of his paraplegic brother. Keisha is more mature because she's being raised by her grandma, which leaves to wonder why her parents are absent, dead. Missionaries? Deadbeats. Phobe's father is blind, which lead her to be an activist and always looking to help others. Wanda's mom in a herpetologist and an all-around bad A. With that, and trying to be an awesome big sister to her baby brother, Wanda herself is quite the tomboy and badder. And so on. I never actually knew that about any of them. That's pretty cool. Drive. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. Every episode we get more and more of his backstory to see why he is the way he is. Edit. Reducing font. Not sure what happened, but apparently people were offended. Edit 2. Making it big again. Because. Drive. Doofenshmirtz used the imbiganator. The backstories are great, but the real kicker is that Doofenshmirtz is actually a very good father and eventually stops being evil, so that he can support his daughter in her desire to intern at Alka. Flynn Rider Entangled. You mean Eugene Fitzherbert? Over the Garden Wall had so many amazing character developments. And lots of twists and turns. Over the Garden Wall is a goddamn classic that deserves way more acclaim and popularity. Also, Potatoes and Molas will always be an absolute banger of a song. Pacifica Northwest from Gravity Falls started off as a snobby rich girl before mellowing out and almost stopping the apocalypse. Probably one of many reasons why Northwest Mystery Manor is one of my favorite episodes. Faye Valentine, if your heart didn't shatter into a million pieces for her during the VHS tape scene or the stick-drawn bed, or when she's pleading with Spike not to leave, then I don't know what to say. After so many years, I still firmly believe that Cowboy Bebop is one of the best animes ever to exist. I've watched it 5+ times at this point. It's such a good story. Great universe building, complex plot that becomes more apparent the more you watch it, heart-wrenching moments, unique characters. It's not the most intense show. It doesn't have crazy action every 10 seconds, but the action scenes it does have are great and the conflicts are very creative. BoJack Horseman. Is that the horse from Horsin' Around? The Elric brothers from Fullmetal Alchemist edit. Spelling. It's been a while since watching it. I have watched both FMA and FMAB, both good in their own way, but Brotherhood followed much closer to the source material. Also edit. I understand that the brothers don't change very much throughout the series, but their story develops significantly, is fleshed out, with a rich history, backstory, and through the way we see them interact with other characters. I would argue this is where we observe change in the brothers, in the maturation of their relationships, both with Lieutenant Armstrong and their childhood trainer/guardian are good examples. Our knowledge/perception of what exactly has transpired changes significantly through the series development. So many characters from that show could be there, but I think Colonel Roy Mustang's arc is the most interesting development, with Hohenheim right behind. In Ben 10, Alien Force, Ben really took the position as leader of the group serious, and every bad thing that happened, he blamed himself. This is a nice contrast to his old self in original Ben 10, in which he was just a cocky hot-headed 10-year-old boy who was just still learning about his powers. Let's not forget that his cousin Gwen went from annoying cousin to badass serious chick as well. Edit. Alien Force is so underrated, I wish it got the same amount of love the Og did. Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Reminder, Zuko wasn't even part of the original design for the show, and was so beloved they crafted the entire story to include him. Boss character status. Enzo Matrix from Reboot. Ish got real when Mainframe got opened up to the web. Literally was searching if anyone posted this. What a bizarre and fantastic show. Also, as a kid throughout the 90s, this show felt way more mature than any other cartoons at the time. In some ways, same with Beast Wars. Sure, these shows were meant to sell toys and such, but give Reboot some credit for the bizarre ideas it had. The character arcs in Samurai Champloo are very well written. They each grow into people they wouldn't have been if they hadn't teamed up. Well, it comes from the same person who created Cowboy Bebop. Ice King started as the stereotypical bad guy and ended up being the hero. Was he really a hero in the end? Maybe I just remember him as a bad guy because of abandoning Finn to the supercharged candy people and flying off with Betty. Marceline from Adventure Time. I think most of the characters from Adventure Time had great character development. I'm so excited for Distant Lands. Ashoka Tano in the Clone Wars. She started as an annoying little jizz for a while, but as time went on she became a character that so many people love, and now after the last few episodes of Clone Wars she's one of, if not the cool Clone Wars characters, and is now probably getting a part in Mando. Absolute beast now. I never hated Ahsoka like some people did, but I remember being part way through season 3 and thinking, okay, when did Ahsoka become amazing? She's basically what the GD should have been, but weren't. Killer from Hunter x Hunter. Considering his background and his attitude in the first arc, and how much he changes into as the series goes on. From child Arlen who gleefully murders to perhaps an empathetic and loving friend. I'd say both him and Gon have great development, but Meruem definitely takes the cake. There are some great answers here, but they all pale in comparison to Dab Dimmadome, owner of the Dimstale Dimmadome. especially after they found his long-lost son, Dale Dimmadome, heir to the Dimmadome fortune. You mean the same Dowd Dimmadome, owner of the Dimmadale Dimmadome, that is showing Crash Nebula? How have I not seen any top answers as Gara? My dude goes from being a bloodthirsty murdering psychopath to Kazakage, and the purest guy in his village. Edit, wrong cage. You could argue Harley Quinn was and is the most developed character from Batman the Animated Series, as her arc survived what in reality was to be the bimbo sidekick just for that animated run. Her character morphed into a longer set of stories in later comics, further animated series, and full-length feature films. That has gone on just shy of 30 years. Her arc was good, but not on the level of Condiment King. Excluding Prince Zuko, as that's a given, Jean-Pierre Polnareff from JoJo's, he turned himself into a turtle. Funniest chiz I've ever seen. Let's be honest, Polnareff was the most developed character in all of Stardust Crusaders. Starting off as an enemy Arwen driven mad by the murder of his sister, he grows to be a vital part and member of the Crusaders he was once sent to kill. Also, he gets to experience more traumatic loss than the other Crusaders, not going into spoiler territory here, and often episodes are dedicated to him. Compare that to the other Crusaders. Jotaro remains a stoic badder, Joseph is there to scream catchphrases, and Kakyoin is just there, I guess. A nice descending character is Scrappy-Doo. From courageous puppy to absolute villain. I kinda feel tired/bad about it. Every time they reintroduce Scrappy, it's always as a villain. Like, reintroduce him with some positive qualities or quit making the same joke. Edit, they actually do kinda redeem Scrappy in the comic series Scooby Apocalypse. But at the same, Scooby Apocalypse is hot trash. Like, for as bonkers as it gets, it's not even enjoyably bad. Just boring and dumb. Bob from Bob's Burgers. Has progressive, open-minded, loves his family, even though they are all terrible, makes amends with his dad, accepts his body and odd quirks, and has a great sense of humor. I love you, but you're all terrible. Clagle Mayo. Peridot from Steven Universe. Honestly, there are so many Sue characters that I cold listed, but Peridot is one of my favorite villain to ally archers. She starts out just like any other gem, cold, hating the earth, only wanting to do her job. But after getting stuck on the planet, Peridot is shown the little things that make Earth beautiful, and she eventually wants to defend it. And her turnaround wasn't too quick or forced either. She had ups and downs. I love Peridot, she's one of the best characters in the whole series. Zeus from Gravity Falls. I've been waiting since the beginning of time for a third season. Third season won't happen. The story of Gravity Falls is finished. Is this just bait for Zuko fangirls and fanboys? Everyone in here is about to say Zuko, I swear. I'll say something little bit different. Eren Gija from Attack on Titan. Boom. Glad I saw Eren here. If you follow the manga, the guy's almost unrecognizable now. Jane's character progression has also been great to watch too. Finn from Adventure Time. I love how the voice actor would intentionally make his voice crack to make it more authentic and show boys that it's normal. Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho. Yusuke was always a good kid. It's just that people treated him like dirt, so he acted that was for those people. He on the other hand was cruel and terrible and did whatever at any cost, but grew a soft spot for the team and opened up to his sister. Avatar Korra after reality hits her hard, literally. Prince Zuko. My dude had his uncle guiding him throughout his whole formative teenage life and still chose poorly when the time came to choose. He regretted it and did what he could to make things right and succeeded in doing so and reunited with Iroh. Such a great arc. And yet that moment showed how Iroh was his true father. When Zuko failed in the eyes of his father and begged for mercy, he was instead given a horrific scar and was banished from his home, his very way of life destroyed in an instant. He fails Iroh, but when he comes to beg for forgiveness, he is welcomed back with open arms. Since everyone else already took all of the Avatar answers, I'll add Stan Pines to the list. Catra from She-Ra on Netflix. Somewhat sad I had to scroll down so far to find this one. You can make an argument that the last season was a little rushed, but Catra's arc through the whole series was really well written, and Aj Michalka does such a good job with her voice acting. Shrek. Catra from the new She-Ra. In a way, the new She-Ra is more Catra's story than She-Ra herself. Just watch this for the why. Major spoilers BTW. And she goes into a bit about how similar and different Catra's and Zuko's stories are. Yeah, to honestly, that whole show has some of the best written characters I've ever seen. Even Hordak. He never really gets a redemption arc. He doesn't need or deserve one really, but you can tell that he is affected by the kindness shown to him by Entraptor. Been looking for someone to mention She-Ra. I feel like a lot of people missed this show because the anti-Society of Jesus W discourse surrounding the initial release. They made all the characters fat feminists. Blah blah blah. But the show told a really cohesive story, and every character has a dynamic arc. Even small characters like Kyle or Spinnerella/Natossa. While Catra is the obvious choice for great arc, with good reason, I also think Adora is up there. She went from having her world turned upside down and finding out the people who raised her were evil to being thrusted into the role of savior, all while battling the trauma of an abusive mother and extremely strained friendship from the most consistent person in her life, and struggling with her destiny. Spoilers, not to mention finding out that the people who thrusted this destiny on her were using her too. So she has to find her identity as She-Ra outside of that, and also discover her identity as Adora, someone with wants outside of saving the world who deserves love too. Unexpectedly queen who needs to listen to repentant friend to a stronger queen and sorcerer. The show just ended, so I didn't want to spoil it, but please watch it. Granted, it's pretty girly in the beginning, so it can stop some people from taking it seriously. But season 4 and 5 especially were such a trip, it needs the recognition. Kobe from One Piece. From a literal nothingness to someone who bites the strongest. From a coward to brave. Chris from Family Guy. Went from an idiot to becoming the only sane and gentle person in the house. Except when it comes to masturbation. I think he's pretty rough with that. 2ton21 from the Venture Brothers. Starting off as a henchman to the Monarch, he goes through some of the best character growth on television. Various storyline driven events force him to come to grips with his reality multiple times. The entire The Venture Brothers show is ripe full of some of the best character development I've ever seen in an animated series. You just need to get through the first 2 seasons of world building / filler, so you have a basis to develop off of. So very true. The brothers have arcs. Brock goes through a lot of change. The Monarch and Drive. Mrs. The Monarch. Even the side characters go through real personal change. Such a freaking masterpiece. Princess Carolyn. Pearl from AskReddit. Actually, just think of any Sue character and there ya go. Grunkle Stan. Miriam from HXH. Uncle Iroh from Atla. Zuko and Azula gets a lot of attention vis-a-vis character development, but Iroh deserves some love. Pre-story he has been a throne heir and a military legend, to lay down arms, and become something of a pacifist. After that he follows his troubled nephew out into the world, to make sure the kid's safe. He gradually steps more and more into the role of father and mentor for Zuko, until he finally has to let his nephew go find his own path and once again, for the sake of peace among nations, steps up to be a general and warrior once more. Then, when the dust settles, and his nephew have grown into the man that Iroh knew he could become, he retires, for real this time, and dedicates the rest of his days to the things he is passionate about. Tea, music, games and good conversation. Be like Iroh, my friends. Stewie in Family Guy went from a diabolical villain trying to murder Lois to a flamboyant homosexual. Guts from Berserk. Went from an aggressive demon-slaying edgelord to a demon-slaying dude who can have his new group and friends and prioritize other things in life, such as his potato. Almost anyone from FMA, Brotherhood. That entire show is a goldmine for fantastic character development. Edit, or Catra from She-Ra. Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars. The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels had a great character arc. Courage the Cowardly Dog. Forever the goodest boy. Daria, hands down. or maybe Beth, or Rick from Rick and Morty. The last 2 seasons, the new ones, really skipped over so much story arc, but the final episode made up for it. Rick, I guess, realizes what a Rick he is at the end of each season, but he doesn't change. So, is that development? I don't know, but he's interesting AF. Daria had a fascinating amount of growth without really changing who she was. Also super relatable for most introverts. Katra from Spop. I'm still amazed at how much she changed through all the seasons. She actually got a natural and well-paced character development that also was a key point to the plot. Aang from Avatar, The Last Airbender, one of my favorite cartoons from when I was younger. A lot of people forget about Aang because of characters like Zuko. He developed a lot in terms of emotional maturity and came to terms with being the Avatar and his responsibilities. Probably not the best example, but the first one I thought of. I always loved Vegeta's progression throughout DBZ. Specifically DBZ, not the continuation 20 years later. He spends the entire series seemingly going through several stages of grief. A very angry man in general, often in denial of the reality in front of him. I don't recall timelines or ages offhand, but he's fairly old by the end. I know he's not old by his race's standards, but we are just being mindful of the time that's passed over the show. From being royalty, dwindling to a handful of your prideful race. Being shown up time and time again by low-born trash, even being saved by them several times. Losing purpose and direction leading to depression. Then years later bargaining for temporary power, to have one last shot at proving you're better than this peasant, this clown. Sacrificing himself only to learn the gap not only had not closed, but was larger than ever. Finally to the very end, when he's looking permadeath in the face, only to be saved once more by this clown. He reflects, he sees the undeniable proof of the gap between them. But he also realizes the things that he sees as weakness in Goku are what helps make Goku strong and motivates him. He finally accepts reality, while he remains an angry person, and not the most pleasant to be around for most of the cast. You can see a clear change in his character and demeanor. Oh my god, here come the Adler fans talking about Zuko. Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. I've typed it out so many times, you'd think I'd be better at conveying just why, but it's something truly difficult to express without just watching the show. Vegeta is introduced as the most generic villain possible, but his evolution is so subtle, thanks in large part to the series being so long. Nothing is forced. You find out that he's apparently just a lackey in some other dude's army. He's then sort of weaseling around trying to gather the Dragon Balls. Gather all 7. You get a single wish, so he can wish for immortality. He basically wants to rule the universe, but he really wants to kill the leader of this army, because the leader destroyed his home world. Over time, once the previous big bad is destroyed by the central protagonist, you see him struggling with a sense of purpose. He then commits himself to becoming stronger than the main hero, but as powerful as he becomes, he can never quite keep up with everyone else around him. At some point throughout all this, he has a one-night stand with one of the female characters, and they have a son, though they seemingly never have a relationship and instead just sort of hate each other. Eventually, enough years pass that he's basically given up. He isn't actively antagonizing the main cast anymore. In fact, he's living with his baby mama and their son. He just seems kind of an odd duckling in the cast. That's when a new villain shows up and seemingly mind controls Vegeta, multiplying his power and pushing him to previously unseen heights. He immediately kills a bunch of innocent bystanders and challenges the main hero to a one-on-one fight, while the others try to subdue the new villain. During their fight, the hero tries to reason with Vegeta, trying to get him to snap out of the mind control. When Vegeta reveals that he isn't actually being controlled at all, he chose to become corrupted. This is when Chiz gets real. Vegeta is beating the chiz out of the main hero, all while dropping bombshell after bombshell about his life. He gets oddly vulnerable while beating the chiz out of the hero, talking about how worthless he felt. He was born the prince of their home planet, and now he's basically a washed up has-been. Despite his every effort to push his body to the breaking point, he simply couldn't keep up with the hero. More than that, he reflected on the person he used to be. Cocky, young, powerful, completely on his own. and didn't answer to anybody. But now, he was basically stuck in a relationship neither person wanted to be in, with a kid, and was both weak and meaningless. The most telling thing about all of this, though, is that once he actually defeats the main hero, literally knocks him out cold, he basically says he's going to prove he's better by going to defeat the actual villain. When he shows up, the villain unleashed this all-powerful monster, and Vegeta simply cannot win. He recognizes this monster is going to destroy the world, so he makes a choice. His son happens to be nearby, and he pulls him close, reflecting that he had never actually held his son. He tells his son to take good care of his mother, then knocks him out cold. He tells another character to take his son to safety, but before leaving, asks what will await him in the afterlife. The guy tells him blankly, you've lived a lifetime of evil deeds. Nothing you do could possibly redeem you. Your spirit is going to disappear, and you will not have an afterlife. Vegeta acknowledges this and tells them to flee the area. Then, in one super emotionally charged moment, Vegeta draws all the energy he can possibly muster and sacrifices himself by blowing himself up, along with the monster. It is such a powerful moment that I would challenge any person to watch DBZ and not tear up at that moment. For what most people consider some stupid anime show, the character of Vegeta is one of the most believably flawed human characters I've ever witnessed in any form of media. Steven from Steven Universe, you really get to see him grow throughout the series as he matures out of childhood and has to adapt his personality and ethics into adulthood. Jim Hawkins from Treasure Planet. He goes from a reckless teenager who wants to ignore the rules and does what he wants without seeing the bigger picture. So close to landing in jail, but has a pain for adventure. A secret map finds itself in his hands and he goes off to explore the galaxy, learning to take care of himself, new skills and working with a team, and not being so selfish. Turns into the hero and saves the day. Most underrated Disney film of all time and an amazing score to go with it. 10/10ths would recommend. Vegeta FS or Piccolo. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome, dude. Thanks for watching.